10 years had passed since Earth burned and humanity had grown stronger in the darkness. Haven Station was now a massive underground city carved into the heart of a giant asteroid. Thousands of people lived and worked in the hidden tunnels that stretched for miles through solid rock. Dr. Elena Rodriguez led Project Phoenix in the deepest levels where the most secret work was done. Young engineer Danny Kim was only 15 when the Zephyrians attacked. Now he was 25 and one of the best minds in the human remnant. Danny worked with salvaged alien technology every day and had learned to think like the machines he repaired. His latest discovery would change everything. Human brains could connect directly to Zephyrian computers and make them work better than they ever had before. Captain Steve Morgan commanded the first stealth ship built entirely from hybrid technology. The Shadowrunner looked like no vessel ever seen before. Its hull was made from alien metals shaped by human engineering. The engines used Zephyrian power sources controlled by human navigation systems. When the ship moved through space, it was almost invisible to any sensors. Dr. Rodriguez had been studying captured Zephyrian databases for months. The information was encrypted, but human computers were better at breaking codes than alien machines. She discovered that the Zephyrian Empire was not as united as it appeared. Different species had been conquered and forced to serve. Many of them were ready to rebel if they thought they could win. The Shadowrunner completed its first test flight with perfect results. Captain Morgan took the ship deep into Zephyrian territory and back without being detected once. The aliens had no idea that humans were flying through their space using their own technology against them. The psychological effect on the survivors was enormous. They were no longer helpless prey hiding in the dark. Danny Kim made another breakthrough when he learned to interface human nervous systems with alien biological computers. The process was dangerous because it required surgery to implant connection ports in a person's skull. Danny volunteered to be the first test subject. When the operation was complete, he could control alien machines with his thoughts alone. The Ash generation had grown up during the years of hiding and hardship. These young people like Alex Thompson had never known the comfortable life their parents remembered. They were tough and smart and angry about what had been done to their species. Alex was only 16, but he could fly a ship through an asteroid field at speeds that would terrify veteran pilots. Dr. Elena Rodriguez organized the first meeting with potential alien allies. The Velkari were a reptilian species that had been enslaved by the Zephyrians for 300 years. They had tried to rebel many times but always failed because they lacked advanced weapons. Contact was established through hidden transmissions using frequencies the Zephyrians did not monitor. Captain Morgan led the Shadowrunner on its first combat mission against a Zephyrian listening post on the edge of their territory. The outpost was supposed to watch for threats from unknown space. The aliens never imagined that the threat would come from technology they thought was their own. The attack was planned for months and executed perfectly. Amy Foster had become a master of infiltration and sabotage. She could disguise herself as a member of several different alien species and walk through Zephyrian facilities without being questioned. Her mission to the listening post was to plant false information in their computers, while Morgan's team destroyed the installation from outside. The listening post was protected by powerful shields and automated defense systems. Human weapons from before the war would have been useless against such defenses. The Shadowrunner carried new hybrid weapons that could phase through energy barriers and adapt to different types of armor. The battle lasted only minutes before the outpost was reduced to floating debris. Danny Kim's neural interface allowed him to hack into the outpost's computer systems during the attack. He downloaded everything the aliens knew about human survivor groups and discovered that the Zephyrians thought humanity was extinct. They had stopped actively hunting for human bases because they believed the job was finished. This was exactly the kind of mistake humans needed their enemies to make. The success of the first raid proved that human hybrid technology could defeat pure Zephyrian science. The survivors began planning larger operations against more important targets. Supply convoys carrying rare materials became primary objectives. Communication relays that connected distant parts of the Empire were marked for destruction. The hidden war was about to begin. Alex Thompson and the other young survivors formed an elite pilot squadron called the Phoenix Wings. They flew modified, fighters that combined human tactics with alien technology. The ships were small and fast and could strike without warning before vanishing into space. Alex became the youngest squadron leader in human history at age 17. Dr. Rodriguez established permanent contact with the Velkari resistance movement. The aliens shared intelligence about Zephyrian military movements and weaknesses in their defenses. In return, humans provided technology that could penetrate enemy shields and jamming systems. The partnership benefited both species and gave humanity its first real allies since the fall. Captain Morgan trained other pilots to fly stealth, ships like the Shadow Runner. The construction facilities at Haven Station worked around the clock to build more vessels using the hybrid technology. Each ship was slightly different as engineers learned new ways to combine human and alien science. The Ghost Fleet was growing, larger and more dangerous. The Zephyrian High Command began to notice that equipment was disappearing and installations were being destroyed. They increased security patrols and started investigating the incidents. The aliens suspected raiders or pirates but never considered that their former victims might have survived and learned to fight back. Their arrogance would be their downfall. Amy Foster led a team to infiltrate a Zephyrian research facility where scientists were studying human DNA samples. The mission was to destroy the research and eliminate any trace that could help the aliens track down the surviving human populations. The facility was heavily guarded, but Amy's team had advantages the defenders could not imagine. The raid on Bastium, the research facility, was the largest human military operation since the fall. 3 stealth ships attacked the station while infiltration teams struck from inside. The battle demonstrated how much humanity had evolved during 10 years of desperate innovation. Human fighters moved through alien corridors like shadows, while their weapons cut through enemy defenses like fire through paper. When the smoke cleared, the research facility was completely destroyed, and all records of human genetic patterns were erased. The Zephyrians lost years of scientific work and dozens of their best researchers. More importantly, they lost their ability to track humans using biological sensors. The survivors had removed one of the most dangerous threats to their continued existence and proved they were ready for bigger challenges. 5 years had passed since the Zephyrians destroyed human civilization. The survivors had learned to live like ghosts in the dark corners of space. They built hidden bases inside asteroids and on the cold sides of dead planets. The largest settlement was called Haven Station, and it housed nearly 800 people inside a hollowed-out rock. Dr. Marcus Webb ran Haven Station with steady hands and a calm voice. Before the war, he had been a terraforming engineer who turned dead worlds into gardens. Now he used those same skills to keep people alive in the worst places in the galaxy. He made sure everyone had air to breathe and water to drink. Most importantly, he gave them hope that tomorrow would be better than today. Lieutenant Amy Foster had become the best scout in the human remnant. She flew small ships deep into Zephyrian territory to gather supplies and information. Her job was dangerous, but someone had to do it. The survivors needed medicine and spare parts that could only be found on the ruins of human worlds. Amy volunteered for these missions because she wanted to see what the aliens had done to her people. Chief Engineer Carlos Mendez worked in the deepest part of Haven Station, where the workshops and laboratories were hidden. He took apart every piece of Zephyrian technology the scouts brought back. Carlos had always been good with machines, but now he was learning to understand alien science. The work was slow and difficult, but he was starting to make progress. Amy Foster returned from a mission to the ruins of New Boston Colony with terrible news. The Zephyrians were not just occupying human worlds. They were erasing every trace that humans had ever existed. Buildings were torn down and replaced with alien structures. Human art and books were burned. Even the graves were dug up and destroyed. Dr. Rachel Park worked with Carlos Mendez to study the alien technology. She was a quantum physicist who understood the deepest secrets of how matter and energy worked. Rachel discovered that Zephyrian shields used principles that humans had thought about but never built. The aliens bent space around their ships to deflect weapons. It was brilliant science, but Rachel thought humans could do it better. The Zephyrians were getting closer to finding the hidden human bases. Their patrol ships searched through asteroid fields and scanned dead planets looking for signs of life. Captain Peter Hayes led small groups of fighters in attacks on these patrols. They had to be very careful because losing even one ship would be a disaster. The humans were badly outnumbered and could not afford to fight fair battles. Amy Foster discovered something horrible during a mission to the former colony world of Kepler Prime. The Zephyrians had built a camp where they were keeping human prisoners. The survivors were being used for medical experiments to learn how human bodies worked. Amy watched through binoculars as scientists in white coats performed surgery on people who were still awake and screaming. The news of the prison camp spread through all the hidden human settlements. People wanted to attack and free the prisoners, but Dr. Webb knew it was impossible. The humans were too weak, and the aliens were too strong. Any rescue attempt would only get more people killed. The survivors had to think about the future even when the present was so painful. Carlos Mendez made his first real breakthrough when he figured out how to power a Zephyrian shield generator. The alien technology used biological computers that grew like plants. Human machines were built from metal and silicon, but aliens grew their tools from living tissue. Carlos learned to trick the alien computers into thinking he was a Zephyrian scientist. Dr. Rachel Park realized that human brains could interface with alien technology in ways that surprised everyone. Where Zephyrians used slow biological connections, humans could create fast electronic links. A human pilot could control an alien ship better than the aliens could. This discovery changed everything because it meant humans could not just copy alien technology, but improve it. The Great Concealment began when Zephyrian search fleets started getting too close to the human hideouts. Every human settlement shut down all their technology and went completely dark. People lived by candlelight and spoke in whispers. The survivors buried their ships under rocks and ice so orbital scans could not detect them. For 3 months they lived like primitives while alien fleets searched overhead. Amy Foster led a mission during the concealment to plant false evidence on a dead planet. She and her team left broken human equipment and fake graves to make the Zephyrians think a group of survivors had lived there and died. The aliens spent weeks investigating the site, while the real human bases stayed hidden nearby. Captain Peter Hayes almost lost his entire squadron when a Zephyrian patrol surprised them during the concealment. His ships were hidden inside an asteroid field, but alien sensors detected unusual metal readings. Peter had to make a terrible choice. He set off explosions to collapse part of the asteroid field and bury his ships deeper. 3 of his pilots were trapped in the cave-in, but the rest survived. Dr. Webb called together the leaders of all the human settlements for a secret meeting. They met on a dead moon where the Zephyrians never went because it had no resources they wanted. The human leaders agreed to work together and share their knowledge. They also agreed to prepare for the day when they would strike back at their enemies. The survivors were changing in ways they had not expected. The children born after the fall knew only hardship and hiding, but they were growing up tough and smart. Adults who had been soft civilians were becoming skilled warriors and engineers. Humanity was being forged into something harder and more determined than it had ever been before. Carlos Mendez and Rachel Park created the first human-alien hybrid technology. It was a small device that could make human weapons phase through Zephyrian shields. The invention used alien science controlled by human engineering. When they tested it, the results were better than anyone had hoped. Human creativity combined with alien knowledge was creating possibilities that neither species had imagined alone. The 5 years of hiding and running were coming to an end. The survivors had learned everything they needed to know about their enemies. They had developed new technologies and trained new fighters. Most importantly, they had proven to themselves that humans could not be destroyed. The time was coming when the galaxy would learn that humanity was still alive and still dangerous. Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of Defense Platform Alpha, watching the stars through the massive viewing window. Earth looked beautiful from this distance with its blue oceans and white clouds spinning slowly below. He had been stationed here for 3 years protecting the home world of humanity. The job was usually boring, but Jake never complained. Protecting Earth was the greatest honor any soldier could have. The year was 2387, and humans had spread across 17 different star systems. They had built cities on distant planets and space stations around alien suns. Earth was still the center of everything, though. The Terran Federation governed all human colonies from the great capital city of New Geneva. Millions of ships traveled between the stars carrying people and goods. Life was good for humanity. Dr. Lisa Carter was working late in her laboratory on Earth when the first alerts came through. She studied alien life forms and had spent years learning about the different species humans had encountered. Most were friendly or at least neutral. The Zephyrians were different, though. They were tall reptilian creatures with advanced technology who rarely spoke to humans. Lisa had always felt something was wrong about them. Captain Ryan Blake commanded the battleship Defiance in the Outer System. His ship was one of the most powerful in the human fleet with enough firepower to destroy a small moon. Ryan was proud of his crew and his ship. They had kept the peace for years and fought off pirates and raiders. He never expected to face a real war. The attack came without warning. Massive alien ships appeared near every human colony at the same time. They were Zephyrian vessels, but bigger than anything humans had ever seen. The ships were dark and covered in strange armor that seemed to absorb light. Energy weapons fired from their hulls in deadly streams of plasma. Jake Morrison watched in horror as the enemy fleet appeared around Earth. There were hundreds of ships, and each one was the size of a city. His defense platform had powerful weapons, but they seemed like toys compared to what he was facing. The alien ships fired, and his shields began to fail immediately. Lisa Carter ran to the communication center as explosions shook the research facility. The news was terrible. Colony after colony was falling to the Zephyrian attack. The aliens were not trying to capture anything. They were destroying everything human. Cities burned and space stations exploded. Millions of people were dying. Ryan Blake ordered his ship to full speed as reports flooded in. The Zephyrians had planned this attack for a long time. They hit every human world at exactly the same moment. Their weapons cut through human shields like they were made of paper. Their ships moved faster than anything in the human fleet. It was a massacre. The Zephyrian technology was far beyond what humans possessed. Their energy shields turned human weapons into harmless light shows. Their plasma cannons could destroy entire city blocks with a single shot. Their ships moved through space like they were dancing while human vessels struggled to keep up. Humanity had been completely outmatched. Jake Morrison realized his platform was doomed, but he could still save lives. Thousands of civilian ships were trying to escape from Earth. The Zephyrian flagship was moving to destroy the evacuation fleet. Jake made a decision that would cost him everything. He turned his massive defense platform toward the enemy ship and pushed the engines to maximum power. Admiral Kate Sullivan watched from the bridge of the carrier Resilience as Jake's platform rammed into the alien flagship. The explosion lit up space like a new star. The enemy ship was destroyed, but so was the platform and everyone on it. Jake Morrison had given his life to buy time for the civilian ships to escape. Dr. Lisa Carter was on one of the last ships to leave Earth. She watched through a porthole as the planet burned. The Zephyrians were using some kind of weapon that set the atmosphere on fire. The oceans boiled and the continents cracked. Everything humans had built over thousands of years was being destroyed in hours. Captain Ryan Blake fought a running battle as he tried to protect the evacuation ships. His weapons could barely scratch the alien armor, and his ship was falling apart. He managed to destroy 2 small Zephyrian vessels before his engines failed. Most of his crew escaped in life pods before the Defiance exploded. Admiral Sullivan broadcast the final message from humanity as the scattered survivors fled into deep space. Her voice was calm, but everyone could hear the sadness in her words. She told the galaxy that humans were not extinct and that they would remember what had been done to them. She promised that humanity would return someday. The great cities of Earth were now ash and rubble. The orbital shipyards were twisted metal floating in space. The proud fleets of humanity were wreckage drifting between the stars. 17 colonies had been reduced to burning worlds in a single day. The Terran Federation was gone and its people were scattered. A few thousand humans survived the attack. They hid in small groups throughout the galaxy using damaged ships. and broken equipment. Some found shelter in asteroid fields while others landed on dead planets far from any trade routes. They had lost everything, but they were still alive. The question now was whether they could stay that way long enough to rebuild. The Zephyrians had won a complete victory. They controlled all former human territory and were already moving their own people onto the conquered worlds. To them, humanity was just another primitive species that had been eliminated. They had no idea that the survivors were already planning for the day when they would rise from the ashes stronger than ever before. 15 years after the fall of Earth, humanity had transformed itself into something the galaxy had never seen before. The Terran Resistance operated from dozens of hidden bases connected by ships that moved through space like phantoms. Admiral Kate Sullivan commanded the scattered fleets while Dr. Elena Rodriguez led the council that governed the survivors. They had built a new civilization in the shadows. The hybrid technology program had produced weapons and ships that surpassed even Zephyrian capabilities. Master engineer Nicole Barnes took over the project when Carlos Mendez died in a reactor accident. She pushed the fusion of human and alien science to levels that seemed impossible. Human ships could now change their quantum signatures to appear as space debris or distant stars to enemy sensors. Commander Tyler Scott led the Ghost Fleet in systematic strikes against Zephyrian infrastructure. His squadron of 12 stealth ships could appear anywhere in the Empire without warning. They targeted communication relays that connected distant worlds and supply convoys carrying critical materials. Each attack was planned perfectly and executed, with ruthless efficiency before the enemy could respond. The Velkari alliance had grown stronger over the years. Ambassador Frank Turner worked with alien resistance leaders to coordinate joint operations against their mutual enemies. The Velkari provided intelligence about Zephyrian military movements while humans shared stealth technology and hybrid weapons. Other enslaved species began reaching out through secret channels asking for help. Captain Amy Foster commanded the infiltration specialists who gathered intelligence from deep inside enemy territory. Her agents could pose as members of different alien species and walk through Zephyrian facilities without being detected. They planted listening devices and sabotaged critical systems while downloading classified information about enemy plans and weaknesses. Dr. Rachel Park had become the leading expert on quantum manipulation technology. Her laboratory produced devices that could bend space and time around human ships. The most advanced vessels could travel faster than light without using conventional hyperspace drives. They simply folded space around themselves and stepped from one location to another instantly. Danny Kim now led a team of neural interface specialists who could control alien technology with their thoughts. The process was still dangerous and required volunteers willing to undergo brain surgery. The enhanced humans could pilot ships or operate weapons with precision that no biological or artificial intelligence could match. They became the elite operators of the resistance. The Zephyrians began to realize they faced an unknown enemy, but their arrogance prevented them from considering human survival. They increased security patrols and started investigating the mysterious attacks on their facilities. Intelligence reports suggested the involvement of a highly advanced species with technology beyond anything in their databases. The possibility that primitive humans could have developed such capabilities never occurred to them. Operation Ghost Strike was planned as the largest human military action since the fall. The target was Proxima Station, a major Zephyrian naval base that controlled shipping lanes through 3 star systems. Captain Steve Morgan would lead the assault while Foster's infiltration team stole strategic databases from the command center. The mission would prove that humanity was ready to challenge the Empire directly. The Zephyrian base was protected by energy shields that could withstand attacks from entire fleets. The station mounted weapons capable of destroying capital ships with single shots. Hundreds of alien vessels patrolled the surrounding space while automated defense platforms created overlapping fields of fire. Any conventional assault would be suicide, but humans no longer fought conventional battles. Tyler Scott's Ghost Fleet attacked the outer defensive perimeters while Morgan's assault ships targeted the main station. The human vessels phased through enemy shields and fired weapons that adapted to whatever armor they encountered. Zephyrian defenders found their own technology turned against them as human hackers took control of defensive systems. Amy Foster led her team through maintenance tunnels that connected different sections of the massive station. They moved like shadows through corridors filled with alien guards and security sensors. The infiltrators used neural interfaces to communicate silently, while their enhanced reflexes allowed them to avoid detection in situations that would trap normal humans. The battle for Proxima Station lasted 6 hours and ended with complete human victory. The Zephyrian naval base was destroyed along with most of the ships docked there. Foster's team escaped with databases containing strategic information about the entire eastern sector of the Empire. The stolen data revealed the locations of major military installations and the deployment patterns of enemy fleets. Steve Morgan sacrificed himself during the final phase of the operation when Zephyrian reinforcements arrived sooner than expected. He rammed his ship into the station's reactor core to ensure the facility was completely destroyed. The explosion could be seen from 3 star systems away and served as a message that humanity was no longer hiding in the shadows. The intelligence, stolen from Proxima Station, revealed something that changed everything. The Zephyrian High Command was planning a final cleansing operation to eliminate all remaining threats to their empire. They intended to destroy entire star systems where unknown enemies might be hiding. The genocide would include billions of innocent civilians on worlds that had nothing to do with the Resistance. Dr. Elena Rodriguez called an emergency meeting of the Resistance Council to discuss the captured intelligence. The Zephyrians planned to begin the final cleansing in 3 months. Whole sectors would be sterilized using weapons that could ignite the atmospheres of planets or cause stars to go supernova. No life would survive in the targeted regions. Admiral Sullivan realized that humanity could no longer afford to fight a hidden war. The Resistance had to reveal itself and rally every possible ally before the Zephyrians began their campaign of total destruction. The survivors had spent 15 years preparing for this moment when they would either reclaim their place in the galaxy or die trying. The Council voted unanimously to begin general operations against the Zephyrian Empire. Hidden bases would become forward operating centers while the Ghost Fleet expanded into a proper navy. The Velkari and other allied species would coordinate simultaneous uprisings across the Empire. Humanity was about to emerge from the shadows stronger than it had ever been before. Tyler Scott received orders to begin unrestricted warfare against all Zephyrian targets. His ghost ships would attack military installations and industrial facilities throughout the Empire. The goal was to cripple enemy production and force them to delay the final cleansing. Every day gained would allow more allies to join the growing rebellion. Ambassador Frank Turner broadcast secret messages to enslaved species throughout the galaxy. He offered human technology and military support to any group willing to fight for freedom. The response was overwhelming as dozens of species that had suffered under Zephyrian rule agreed to coordinate their liberation efforts with the human resistance. The hidden war was over, and the real fight was about to begin. Humanity had spent 15 years learning from their enemies and developing the tools needed for victory. They had forged alliances with other oppressed species and proven that Zephyrian technology could be defeated. The time had come to rise from the ashes and reclaim their destiny among the stars. 20 years after the fall of Earth, humanity was ready to reclaim its place in the galaxy. The Terran Resistance had grown into the reformed Terran Republic with President Catherine Brooks leading a government that represented not just human survivors, but 6 allied species. The hidden bases had become cities and the ghost fleets had grown into armadas that could challenge any force in known space. Admiral Amy Foster stood on the bridge of the flagship Resurrection, watching her fleet prepare for the final campaign. The ship was a masterpiece of hybrid technology that combined human innovation with the best of alien science. Its weapons could punch through any known defense while its shields adapted to incoming fire. The vessel represented everything humanity had learned during 20 years of desperate survival. Captain Danny Kim commanded the Resurrection with skills that amazed even veteran spacers. His neural interfaces allowed him to control every system on the ship with his thoughts. The enhanced connection made him faster than any computer and more intuitive than any artificial intelligence. He had volunteered for the dangerous surgery that implanted alien technology in his brain because he wanted to protect his people. The reformed Terran Republic controlled territory in 12 star systems and had military bases on 40 different worlds. President Brooks governed from New Terra Station, built in the ruins of the Sol system where Earth once stood. The facility was both a symbol of human recovery and a fortress that could withstand attacks from entire fleets. Dr. Elena Rodriguez had become the chief scientist of the Republic and led research programs that pushed the boundaries of known physics. Her laboratories produced weapons that learned from each battle and ships that could repair themselves using nanotechnology. The fusion of human creativity with alien knowledge had created possibilities that no single species could achieve alone. The Velkari rebellion had liberated their homeworld with human support and now controlled a dozen systems in the eastern sector. Colonel Alex Thompson led the human advisors who helped train alien resistance fighters. The young officer had grown up during the years of hiding and represented the Ash generation that knew only struggle and determination. Operation Daybreak began with simultaneous attacks on 17 Zephyrian strongholds across the galaxy. Each battle was carefully planned to showcase different aspects of human military evolution. The Reformed Republic wanted to demonstrate that they possessed not just the power to fight, but the wisdom to build something better from the ruins of war. The assault on Kepler 7 showed how human ships could fight like living creatures. The EE vessels moved in perfect coordination, while their weapons adapted to enemy defenses in real time. Zephyrian commanders watched in horror as their most advanced technology was turned against them by fighters who seemed to anticipate every move before it was made. Tyler Scott led the attack on the fortress world of Draconis Prime, where the Zephyrians had built their largest military academy. His ghost ships appeared inside the planet's defensive perimeter and struck with precision that left the base in ruins while sparing civilian areas. The message was clear that humans could distinguish between enemies and innocents, even in the heat of battle. The battle for the mining colonies at Arcturus showed the galaxy what happened when different species worked together. Human ships fought alongside Velkari cruisers and vessels from 4 other allied races. Each species contributed their unique strengths, while hybrid technology allowed them to coordinate their efforts perfectly. The Zephyrian defenders were overwhelmed by tactics they had never seen before. President Brooks broadcast a message to the entire galaxy as the battles raged across 17 systems. She spoke of freedom and cooperation rather than revenge and conquest. The Reformed Republic offered peace to any species willing to abandon the Empire and join the growing alliance. Even Zephyrians who rejected their government's policies would be welcomed as equals. The climactic battle took place at Zephyria Prime, where the alien capital world was protected by the most advanced defenses in the galaxy. The planet was surrounded by energy barriers that could withstand attacks from supernovas, while orbital platforms mounted weapons capable of destroying entire fleets. The Zephyrian High Command believed their homeworld was absolutely safe from any possible assault. Admiral Foster led the combined fleets of 6 allied species in the final approach to Zephyria Prime. The armada included ships that used principles of physics unknown to galactic science, human vessels that could phase between dimensions while alien cruisers controlled gravity itself. The assault force represented the pinnacle of cooperative military evolution. Danny Kim piloted the Resurrection through the outer defensive shell, using navigation techniques that bent space around the massive ship. The vessel emerged inside the planet's orbital defenses and began targeting the command centers that controlled the entire system. The enhanced captain's neural interfaces allowed him to process battlefield information faster than any computer network. The Zephyrian defenders fought with the desperation of a species that had ruled the galaxy for centuries. Their most advanced warships and elite guard units threw themselves against the Allied fleets in battles that lit up space like artificial stars. The combat was fierce, but the outcome was never really in doubt because the Empire faced enemies who had learned from 20 years of defeat. Colonel Alex Thompson led the ground assault on the Zephyrian High Council chambers, while orbital bombardments raged overhead. His team moved through the alien capital using equipment that made them invisible to every known type of sensor. The young officer had trained for this mission since childhood and would not allow the enemy leadership to escape justice. The final confrontation occurred in the council chambers where President Brooks faced Emperor Zaxthor himself. The alien ruler expected to be executed, but Brooks offered terms that shocked everyone present. conditional surrender with the possibility of peaceful coexistence if the Zephyrians agreed to release all enslaved species and join the galactic community as equals rather than masters. Emperor Zaxthor struggled to understand why the humans would show mercy after 20 years of suffering. Brooks explained that revenge would only continue the cycle of violence that had consumed the galaxy for too long. The Reformed Republic wanted to build a future where different species could cooperate instead of constantly fighting each other for dominance. The signing of the Galactic Concordat took place aboard New Terra Station with representatives from dozens of species present. The agreement established principles of cooperation and mutual respect that would govern relations between worlds. Humanity had not just survived and fought back, but had become the catalyst for a new age of peace among the stars. Admiral Foster watched from the observation deck as ships from across the galaxy docked at New Terra Station. The vessels represented species that had been enemies for centuries but were now working together to build something better. Children of different races played in the station's gardens, while their parents discussed trade agreements and cultural exchanges. The final image that would be remembered by history showed President Brooks and Emperor Zaxthor shaking hands as former enemies became partners in building a peaceful galaxy. Behind them stood representatives of every species that had joined the alliance, including humans who had risen from the ashes of their destroyed civilization to become leaders in the new order they had helped create.